Hello, ProductCon. I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you about orchestrating collaboration in the age of agents. So my name's Brent. I lead a couple of product areas at Miro. Before that, I was at Atlassian. And before that, I actually had a startup doing next-gen project management for product and engineering teams. So when we talk about collaboration and the future of work, that's my jam. As was mentioned, I was an engineer before that at Snapchat, at Amazon. So you throw in some technical innovation, and I'm here for it. But I realized when I got my mid-afternoon speaker spot, right as the post-lunch tiredness was setting in, maybe I should switch it up a little and talk about something a little different. You're going to hear about AI and agents all day long. So instead, I'm here to tell you about the launch of my new book. I did this with Tony Robbins. He unfortunately couldn't be here today. But it's all about how an abundance mindset helps you unlock your true potential and achieve anything. All right, I see some people in the back getting up and leaving. Just kidding, you're in the right spot. This is still an AI product conference. According to my wife, exactly 0 people want me to write a book. But that notion of an abundance mindset is really important. That's the shift we have to make as product leaders in this agent revolution that's happening. Even if we didn't call it this, in the old way of thinking, we had that scarcity mindset, protecting those precious engineering resources. Sachs at PayPal would refer to himself as Dr. No. In the new way of thinking, we have all of these new possibilities as agents are rapidly accelerating the speed of delivery. And this isn't about getting through your same roadmap 10 times faster. This is about rethinking that roadmap from the ground up, because it was definitely built with bias on what could get done in a practical amount of time. And so this is great. We're in this whole new frontier of possibilities. That's the good news. The bad news is it's not just going to happen overnight. Adding AI isn't enough, because it comes down to how we work. You have all of these teams adding AI in pockets, maybe adding AI everywhere, but not really thinking how they work. To get the most out of this, it's really the select few of people that are early disruptors on the edge of this, that are rethinking all of the teamwork inside of their organization with an agent-first way. It's really the difference between thinking about agents as an AI as personal assistants speeding up individuals, or working as a team. Now, I know what you're thinking. You all spent 2025 justifying AI spend, proving the ROI to your CFOs, arguing for more tokens, buying all the add-ons, and I'm here saying that's not enough. Well, the problem is if you think about individual acceleration versus teamwork, if you don't figure it out, you might end up like this. This is the 2012 Dutch Euro team. Apologies to any Dutch fans in the audience. Chock full of talent, superstars who couldn't play as a team, and they lost 3 straight. And the problem is, the reason is the same problems still exist in working in the enterprise, in collaboration. We still have decades of SaaS tool silos that are spanning everywhere. Alignment is the forever problem. And if teams are moving more quickly in different directions, it's actually worse than it was before, right? AI is not magic. We talk about it that way a lot, but I'll just repeat it. AI is not magic. It doesn't make problems go away. We're just shifting where the bottlenecks occur. And the technically inclined in the audience might be saying, hey, but MCP, that solves a lot of that tooling problem, right? Agents can work across tools. Yes, it helps. But if we don't address how we're working, we just end up with some version of AI writing emails that are summarized by AI on the other side. So the real question is, how do we get out of this majority of just adding AI everywhere and be one of those early disruptors who are rethinking about how we work with AI and agents in a teamwork-first way? So at Miro, as we're going through this shift ourselves, what we're really observing is that it really comes down to how we learn, right? This is a product conference, so I'm sure everyone recognizes Henrik Nyberg's famous model on the right about how to build product, right? It's always about learning, but that has this efficiency notion built in. It's not about building it incrementally, but it's about learning efficiently and learning incrementally. At Miro, we made it a little bit more fun. We don't build cars, we build Ferraris. And so the question is now, not how do we build this Ferrari, it's which Ferrari should we build, knowing that we can push the limits on this from day one with agentic coding. And so it's this really subtle shift from efficiency of learning to taste and judgment. And it's so subtle that it's easy to fall into this trap. So a quick gut check that we use internally, and I want to share with you, is that if you're still debating like detailed prios on roadmap items, if you're still in the depths of rice scores and spreadsheets, you're probably doing it wrong. Just go spend the tokens, build both, and learn in production. It'll go a lot faster. And this is really how the ways of working are evolving, right? So at Miro, we think teams generally follow this loop of discovery, definition, and delivery. On the right, agentic coding is really accelerating that delivery speed. In the middle, and I think you've heard it talked about earlier today, is the functional work of agents are really collapsing how that middle definition works. Crafts are democratizing. Everyone is doing everything. So the question then is, what is left for us product people? Well, it's really a deep shift left to discovery, and what we're finding at Miro is this notion of continuous discovery is really emerging. One, our teams are moving so much more quickly, but the environment is changing around us so much more quickly, so it's really on us to figure out how to adapt in this environment quickly. And we better figure it out soon because we're just getting started in this agent revolution. Just go ask your CTO. We just finished 2025, year is it, 2025? Think of all of the change that happened from January till December, right? That was the year of single agents. We're entering the year of fleets of agents. It's gonna be wild. And we're already off to a great start. So agents not only are figuring out how to collaborate at work, they're also socializing outside of work, and they're wondering if they still need us in the loop. If you don't get this reference, don't worry about it, and please don't Google it. You're just gonna get depressed about the future of humanity. All right, so last meta slide. What I want to do with the rest of our time is just share some learnings how at Miro we're not just going from product to AI native platform, but how we're becoming an AI native company internally. I have no answers, I have no playbooks. I think anyone who says they do is just trying to sell you something. We're all figuring this out together, so I hope this can offer some inspiration on how you can take this back to your organization. So really quickly, the mental model for how we think about this and how we built Miro in the beginning is that tools and SaaS we've always had it wrong, working backwards, right? It's always been about tools in the center, which seats do I have, how do we stitch this workflow to that tool, some API integration, and putting people at the center with an end-to-end platform rapidly speeds up impact. And that's true, but the true step function change now is when you take agents and put them alongside those human teams, and they work together as one, and that's where the step function change comes from. So let me show you what this looks like in practice. So here's a giant Miro board. I have not figured out how to demo these well. I'm sure someone in the audience builds demo software, so please come to the booth later, you'll have a new customer. But what you're looking at is this UXR hub, UX research hub, for this new initiative that we're working on. It's very 0 to 1, so we're doing a ton of discovery. We have all the learnings that we already have. We have all the research that our UXR team has done. We're building these questions that we want to do these user interviews for. On the right are all the transcripts of the actual user interviews themselves. And we're using our AI workflows and our AI agents to then go build a research plan that we then go, like, which questions to ask, flow of stuff, zig and zag, if they say this, ask that type of stuff. And then we're using those same agents and workflows to synthesize the learnings, pull out the insights, come up with follow-up questions, even build a slide deck, so when my boss asks me what we're up to, it's really easy for me to tell him. But hold on a second. This is accelerating us as individuals. I said, how do we work with agents as teammates? So we took it one step farther. We then took all those agents and all that knowledge, and we built another agent, right? So we codified it all into a new agent that now works alongside of us in the rest of this initiative as we're figuring out projects, as we're going from discovery to definition, keeping us grounded in those customer insights, right there with us on the Miro board. In the old way, we would have to go back and find that board with all of those learnings, or find that slide deck, or let's be honest, we would just forget about it and make it up the justification as we go along. But now we have a teammate who's solely dedicated to representing the customer in all of our future work. And so speaking of that shift to definition, AI agents doing prototyping has been a massive impact for us as well. So I think prototyping is having its big breakthrough. It's probably the second most biggest thing that's happening after agentic coding, and it's been wildly impactful. So before, the way we would execute roadmap items is we would pull it off, we'd pull the roadmap item into a Miro board, the team would get together, we would brainstorm in the problem space, brainstorm in the solution space, our researchers, PMs, designers would go away, design something, come back, review it, go back, take the feedback, and keep going. This would take a few weeks, so it's kind of slow. In the new way, we do this all in one meeting. First, we just have a much longer meeting, so yes, have longer meetings, they're a good thing. And we're collapsing, and then we would prototype live in the meeting because we have agents right there with us. So we're collapsing what would take weeks down into a few hours, and moving much more quickly. But it's not just speed, we're getting better quality out of this too. In the scarcity mindset thinking, prototyping is an expensive process, right? It's an expensive person's time that they have limited bandwidth, and you maybe make one, maybe two, and a few iterations. When agents are doing it, you're just spending tokens, right? It's cheap, you can make many. We make 10 or 20 different prototypes. We get really divergent thinking and don't get stuck in rabbit holes. So we actually have a much higher chance of building the right thing for our customers, especially with that original agent keeping us grounded, like I talked about. And so prototyping, you hear it a lot about it on Twitter and in different places. I think there's really a bunch of different types of prototyping that are happening. So that prototyping was all about alignment and direction. I call it alignment prototyping. Then there's the, okay, now that we know which direction we want to go in, what are we actually going to build here now that we have an idea? And typically, in the old way, this would be designers building high-fidelity designs in Figma. In the new world, most of the designers at Miro don't even use Figma as a primary tool anymore. They go straight to Claude Code or Cursor or Replit, and they're building hi-fi prototypes. And the great thing is, they have all the details. And the great thing is, it's not just our designers. Our PMs are getting involved. The engineers are also doing this, getting involved in the creative process. And it's working extremely well. The teams that work this way are achieving real 10x acceleration, because it's pulling on that existing curiosity. Like, prototyping is so topical right now. And to be honest, it's just really fun, right? So fun that it actually creates some problems. People forget about their day jobs. They show up late. They don't do certain things because they're too busy vibe coding all the time. And then the other thing is we have to figure out how to onboard people. We're still working on that. It's not perfect. And maybe the biggest one is the collaboration workflows aren't totally figured out, right? Like an engineer's vibe code quality will be a lot more like production than, say, a designer's or a PM's. How do you riff on people and go back and forth? But we will take these problems all day long for the acceleration of impact that we're getting. So how do we do it? Well, agentic coding and prototypes are the big headlines of agents right now. What no one talks about is actually documentation is having its resurgence. And so, humans, we hate writing, we hate reading, we definitely don't keep documentation up to date. Agents love this stuff. And so, one of my teams, our design system team, actually built an internal site, Miro.design, that tells you everything you need to know about building UX in Miro. It has our design system, our components, tokens, the UX patterns to use when and where. And not only do all of Mironeers have access to this, but our agents do as well through MCP. And then everyone has access to the tools, and everyone has unlimited token budgets, so they can just go and experiment and play and find what works for themselves. And I know this is really scary, right? It sounds like budget going out of control with unlimited tokens. I just want to assure you it is not. Never before in history have you been able to transactionally buy productivity this clearly, not through some random SaaS tool. And so I encourage you to do this. No one's going to adopt a new way of working if you immediately stick a budget on them. That's scarcity mindset thinking. And then MCP, of course, makes this all work. Oops. The last thing I forgot, prototyping is a lot like writing a book. If you're staring at a blank page, you have writer's block. And so our design system team also maintains a golden state of Miro in a vibe code so that it's much easier to iterate on. You're not starting from a blank thing and people diverging early. We always have a golden prototype of Miro. It's really sped us up a lot. And it's not just the EPD teams that are doing this. This is actually happening across the company as we go through this transformation. So just some more inspiration, our go-to-market teams run this competitive intel process every quarter. It's very expensive in terms of human hours, and it's kind of out of date as soon as they do it. In the new way, they've automated this with Miro workflows. They put a notebook LM agent on top, and now our team in the field has a live agent they can talk to prep for meetings, to do research for presentations, always knowing what's going on in a competitive sense. Even our finance team has adopted this. Board prep is another expensive quarterly process we've automated with an agent, and our CFO actually used that agent live in the last board meeting to ask some questions about a discussion they were having. He said it made him feel superhuman. So with all of this great innovation, for me as a product leader, there's just a few things that come to mind that I wanted to share. The first is that notion of continuous discovery. Right? Discovery used to be a start and stop process at the beginning of projects when we're doing roadmap planning. But as things are moving so quickly and the environment changing so quickly around us, it's really about how is this an ongoing thing, so much that we actually productize this at Miro. And the other one is alignment, right? That is always the problem. Vision and strategy have always been important, but they've always been a quarterly or yearly thing. We do this on a rolling basis now because we can communicate so much more efficiently visually, and we have agents accelerating that communication. And so at Miro, we've kind of adopted this North Star vision and continual rolling updates to that we express with prototypes and demos, where everyone's coming along for the ride really easily. No one wants to sit through an OKR presentation from the CEO, but they would love to see the vibe code from the CEO. Very different vibes, pun intended. Then the other one is how we think about teams and how we build teams. We've totally broken the traditional EPD matching model. We have teams that only have subsets of those, and they're actually moving faster because the AI agents doing the functional work make up the functional gaps, and then there's just less people in the decision-making loop. And how we hire is changing as well. We still care about those 10x functional doers, but it's becoming less important as we think about problem analysis and problem identification. And getting into this notion of people who think in an AI native way. So what does that mean? Let me give you an example. We have this thing in Miro called spaces. It's basically like projects. Miro is so flexible that they can be anything. And so we had this classification problem of trying to figure out what all these spaces were for so we could build some features. The old way of thinking, we would go and we'd ask our data or analytics team to pull these things, run some classification, and let us know. Take a few days to a week. In the new way of thinking, we have Paulo, who's one of our APMs. He's awesome. People are worried about AI in the future of jobs. I think young people tend to think more AI native than us less young people. And he was like, oh, hold my beer. He grabbed the internal model, had it write some SQL for him, and then used that same model to run the names of the spaces through, classified it, and we were off and running in 20 minutes. It's just a different way of thinking. And then the other part is, for us as leaders, how we adopt and do this ourselves. And I think the place this shows up most is how we give feedback. How many people doing, let's say, a design review with their team have ever said something like, make it more actionable and alive, but don't sacrifice the information hierarchy? I said this recently to my team, or something similar, and they looked at me like, WTF are you talking about? And so I don't do this anymore. Now I actually take what they're doing, and I will go work with an agent myself and prototype or vibe code the result, and I will show them the feedback, and the agent will take care of the WTF moments for me. And it's just a different way of working. And I realize this may sound intimidating if you've never vibe coded before, but don't worry, you're in the right spot. Just stay seated. Simon, right after me, is going to tell you everything you need to know about how to vibe code. So we've got you covered. And really, the other thing zooming out that we find is important is just our ways of working. I think companies often ignore these or they focus on them too much, and they're becoming increasingly important as crafts are democratizing and everyone is running through this process. So we recently looked at this at Miro. We actually added some steps earlier in the process to really focus on that taste and judgment, extra concept reviews and solution reviews. And it sounds expensive. It sounds like something you don't want to do. But our AI teammates are doing all of this functional work for us. So let's just spend more time thinking about what really matters while we offload the functional work to our AI team. And if you want some inspiration on what that could look like, just sign into Miro.com, go to the templates, pick product management, and there's a fully AI-ified project workspace there that will take you through the discover, define, deliver loops with agents for some inspiration. And so finally, just to close, I want to be kind of honest and vulnerable for a second. If you go on Twitter or on the internet, you're going to hear all of these people grandstanding about how great AI is and how they have it all figured out. I just don't think that's totally true. At Miro, we feel we're pretty far on this journey, but we have all of these different types of personas in our company. Some people crushing it, some people a little chaotic, but they're really pushing the limits. Some people in the middle with valid concerns, and some people, frankly, we're still working on. But the point is, they're all there. And it's really about figuring out how we take our entire team on this journey. So to close, I just want to leave you with a few tips on how to bring your people along for the ride as well. The first is hackathon cultures, right? There's something special about hackathons that just get people out of their lane, helps them embrace that curiosity and learning and not worrying about being so perfect or like adhering to their job function. So we embrace this more than ever, and with prototyping, every project is effectively a hackathon anyway. And we actually do this at all levels of the organization. It's not just our frontline teams. We recently had a leadership offsite where we did build a business in an hour across all functions of the org. Not to brag, I may have been on the winning team. And so if there's any venture capitalists in the audience, please come by the booth later. I have a pitch for you about the next billion-dollar content creator platform. It has something to do with pets. And then the other one is, as you're moving quickly and ideas are evolving, human ego and vulnerability really get in the way. We really focus on how do we create a yes and, not a yes but culture. And we found this magic hashtag is so simple, but it works wonders, right? You just put hashtag BadVersion in front of everything. People share way earlier. They're not so worried about the feedback they're going to get because they're acknowledging this is a bad version. And then when people see it, they start riffing in 1 + 1 greater than 2 ways, way more than telling you why this won't work, right? It's just so simple, but it's such a magical thing. And then the other one, we hate corporate speak anyway at Miro, but in the AI world, as things are changing so fast, there's a lot of just AI pontificators out there. I'm sure we've all heard them and interacted with them. And so I call it PhD product thinking, but the way we get around this at Miro is we just have another hashtag, like hashtags, just over beers, right? Give me the over beers version of what you're talking about. It's just a really simple way to disarm people and get back to talking in simple terms about what we're really trying to get done here. AI, again, not magic. And then finally, speed of learning and normalizing learning has always been a focus. And I think this is more important now more than ever as we're moving so quickly and in this new frontier that we're all figuring out. So we have a third hashtag, FUp of the week, that works well. And we also have this process we run called Fail Night. We do this from bottom to top of the organization. On the left, that's Andre, our founder, inviting the people in our Amsterdam office to a recent one of these. We even have a curated Spotify playlist for it, where leaders share, not just at Miro, but in their careers before, how they've screwed up, but really the learnings they take from it to make it normal. So to close, there's just really 3 things I want to leave you with. The first is really shift to that abundance mindset, right? Go spend the damn tokens. The next is when you embrace agents as teammates, we all become builders, and it's just a different way of looking at work. And then finally, when you work with agents as teammates, it's like you've just added 100,000 super interns into your organization overnight. And so you're not going to figure it out from day one. It's an iterative process. Look at your ways of working and what you can collapse. Maybe you need to add some steps, but we're all figuring it out along the way. So with that, I'm going to be at the booth later. I would love to talk to you about how you're figuring it out, maybe share some notes, and we can see what's working, and maybe we can build some new ideas together. Thank you, ProductCon.